Today I'm going to talk about Blackfriars Station. Not that one. Not even that one. This one. The abandoned one that keeps cropping up in my videos, but somehow I've never done a dedicated episode about. It's almost directly opposite Southwark Tube Station, next to Waterloo East. The history of the station is very short. It lasted only 5 years, in fact, from 1864 to 1869. It lasted so little time, in fact, that there's a fair bit about the station that we don't even know. So what was the point? Why build a station that you're only going to close 5 years later? Well, I personally believe that it was yet another instance of Victorian railway builders being Victorian railway builders. That is to say, the kind of shady and ill-thought-out behaviour that makes Thomas the Tank Engine look like a sober and respectable gent. This Blackfriars station is next to a place where two lines cross. The line running through the station was owned by the South Eastern Railway. The line running towards the river was the London, Chatham and Dover Railway. These companies were rivals. To find out why, we have to go back a few years, to before the station was built. The South Eastern Railway was founded in 1836 and, as the name suggests, it served the southeast of England. But by 1850, the general opinion in many towns in Kent was that it did not serve them very well. So a new company was founded, known as the East Kent Railway. The company was slow to get off the ground and it was financially insecure from the start. But nevertheless, the South Eastern Railway were not happy about this upstart. The railway historian O.S. Knox suggests that the sensible thing to do would have been to let the East Kent build as much as they could, run out of money, and then buy them out. But that doesn't seem to have been what the South Eastern wanted. Instead, they just became the biggest pain in the backside they possibly could vis-à-vis the East Kent. The aim of the East Kent Railway was to build a line that would connect with the South Eastern Railway and use that to get into London. The South Eastern made it very clear that this was not going to happen. So the absolute mad lads of the East Kent decided that they were going to build their own line to London. Through a combination of borrowing an inadvisably large amount of money and striking deals with railways the South Eastern had annoyed, they succeeded. In 1859 they changed their name to the London, Chatham and Dover Railway, and while they were never a wealthy company like the South Eastern, they were a thorn in the larger company's side. The two would engage in all sorts of competition and duplication of lines. Basically, this is why the railways in South East England are such a mess. In 1864 their paths were to cross, literally. The London, Chatham and Dover were building their Metropolitan extension, a line that was to run through South London, over the river, under the city, and finally to connect with the Metropolitan Railway. This would form a major strategic route. At the same time, there was a railway under construction known as the London Bridge and Charing Cross Railway. The South Eastern Railway's London terminus was at London Bridge, which was not really what they wanted. It was on the south side of the river, near the eastern end of the City of London. Tower Bridge had not been built yet, so the only nearby river crossing was the congested London Bridge. You know, the one the station is named after. The South Eastern started looking for more central locations, and they settled for a site near Hungerford Bridge. You'd know it as Charing Cross. This was in the West End of London. Once parliamentary approval had been gained, a company was set up, the London Bridge and Charing Cross Railway. Once parliamentary approval had been gained, the company was set up. In theory, this was a separate enterprise from the South Eastern Railway, but the South Eastern were the beneficiaries of the line, it would be their trains using it, and they contributed £300,000 towards the construction of the line, something approaching £40 million in today money. It seems almost certain that the plan was always to form a new company to raise funds and get the railway built, then for the South Eastern to absorb it. The London Bridge and Charing Cross Railway shortly changed their name to just the Charing Cross Railway. The Charing Cross Railway was crossed by the London, Chatham and Dover in Southwark, and both lines were set to open in 1864. The Dover Boys station was to be at the southern end of Blackfriars Bridge until they could complete their own rail bridge into the city. And I wonder about the motivations for having a station built here. See, the station that opened on the 11th of January 1864 was very basic. It had no grand station building. The booking hall was built into the viaduct. I mean, the entrance was right here. Shortly before opening, the Charing Cross Railway was absorbed into the South Eastern, but not before they'd built these letters into the wall. Now, lots of stations in South London were built like this. Southwark was quite a poor area, and I doubt the railway were expecting a lot of passengers to use this station. The modern concept of commuting was in its infancy, and most people around here would likely have lived within walking distance of where they worked. So it didn't make sense to throw a lot of money at a station that probably wouldn't make much back. Then there's the fact that the station isn't actually mentioned in the Board of Trade report. According to railway historian J.E. Connor, Captain Tyler's report on the new line does not once mention Blackfriars Station. The report was made on the 6th of January 1864, just 5 days before the station opened, so it's not like he wouldn't have known about it. This would seem to imply that there was very little to the station. And then you have the name. As I said, the station was in Southwark, not Blackfriars. In fact, the station was often known as Blackfriars Road, although never officially. Of course, railway companies did that sort of thing a lot, give a station a name that implies it's somewhere it isn't in order to attract passengers. But the South Eastern must have been aware of their rivals' plans, and that they were building a city terminus that would be just a short walk away. All of these things lead me to wonder if this Blackfriars station was built as a mean-spirited and hasty attempt to steal passengers from the Dover Boys. After all, some gent from Kent visiting London on business probably wouldn't know the difference between the two Blackfriarses. Most of the trains into Charing Cross called here. Interestingly, the London, Chatham and Dover suggested that they might turn it into an exchange station. Contemporary maps indicate that the South Eastern's platforms extended all the way back to the viaduct where the LCDR crossed. All the South Eastern's report says is that the idea should be carefully considered, which sounds very ambiguous. Whatever the reasoning behind Blackfriars, the station did not last very long at all. Just a few years after opening, the South Eastern were planning a new station next to the London and South Western Railway's Waterloo station. This was to be called Waterloo Junction, but these days it's known as Waterloo East. The eastern end of this station's platforms would be just across the road from Blackfriars, so there was no point in keeping both. So on the 1st of January 1869, Blackfriars was closed. Even now we know very little about the station. We don't know how many platforms there were. It was either 3 or 4. I would guess they were made of timber, given that the whole thing seems to have been done on the cheap. Certainly there aren't enough remains to tell us how the station was laid out. The entrance, too, disappeared from view. The sign was filled in and covered by adverts. But in 2005 it was restored, and now the entrance houses a cafe. Blackfriars wasn't a big station or an important one, but it was a strange one. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like as ever to thank my kind donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon and here on YouTube for your support. You are the misleading name to my short-lived station. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.